What's up, guys? We are yet another day closer to this giant hurricane making landfall. It's Wednesday, September 12th, 11:50 a.m. Mountain Time, 2018. What you're looking at is a simulation of the hurricane. That's a visible loop from just a few hours ago of what the storm looked like in visible mode as the sunlight came up early this morning. It's now a strong Category 3 storm with wind speeds sustained of 125 miles an hour. Still moving at around 16 miles per hour west-northwest, expected to slow down. But the reason that it was downgraded a little bit was this wind shear. There was a little bit of wind shear that it just did come out of. What you're looking at now is an infrared satellite loop of the Atlantic Basin. And you can see down in the lower center part of the loop, that's the tropical storm now, Isaac. And it honestly looks more like a collection of thunderstorms. It's not a very well organized system anymore that's headed towards the Lesser Antilles. So you guys shouldn't expect anything too terribly bad out of that storm. Nothing like Maria. Not even anywhere close. Not even in the same galaxy. Maybe some rain, some wind, some elevated waves here and there, but nothing super terrible. The storm is becoming very unorganized from wind shear. That's what wind shear does to these storms. To the right and behind this Hurricane Isaac is Hurricane Helene that's moving to the north. And then north of that is yet another, what they're calling an invest. That's when they first categorize something that could potentially become a tropical storm or a hurricane. It will not affect the U.S. mainland or anything associated with the U.S. However, it could strengthen and move into the North Atlantic and quite possibly affect Ireland like we saw Ophelia do last year, which was kind of unusual. I'm just saying it's a possibility. It hasn't even formed yet, but it does look like it's starting to get some rotation. Could become a tropical storm in the next 24 hours or so. But the farther north it goes, the cooler the waters become. So we'll have to watch that one and see, but it could impact Ireland and Great Britain and Scotland, Northern Europe in the days ahead. But no guarantees. Kind of doubt it really, but you never know. Have to wait and see. Let's take a look. I'm going to show you Google Earth here real quick, just aesthetically how big this storm has become, this Hurricane Florence. And then we're going to look at the super typhoon over in the Philippine Sea, what's left of Hurricane Olivia that's just hours from landfall in Hawaii. And then again, we'll take a look at Tropical Storm Isaac. This is Florence. Look at the size of this storm. The outer bands are already affecting the Outer Banks. That thing is huge. Look at that. That is one big storm. And I still expect it to strengthen before it makes landfall. Probably back up to a Category 4 because it is out of the wind shear now. It's got the green light all the way to the coast, so look for it to strengthen a little. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully it'll stay a Category 3. But it's not too far from where it was just a couple of hours ago. It's only 5 mile an hour difference. But that is one huge storm that's going to affect many states. I think, from what I understand, the state of Georgia now, based off of this new potential track, has declared a state of emergency. just in case. It does kind of look like there might be a chance of this thing making dual landfalls, which is very weird. It's happened, but it's super rare. Super rare. But this is a look at the storm on Google Earth, and you can start to see the eye wall even on Google Earth. Yesterday we couldn't because of wind shear. Now you can see it is coming out of the wind shear, and you can see the storm is just touching the Outer Banks. We're going to talk about this storm surge in the Outer Banks area that could exceed 9 feet, and it involves many homes, a small airport, some important places in there that could potentially see a lot of storm surge. That's the forecast now from the National Hurricane Center, and we'll take a look at that here in just a few minutes. Here is the storm in Hawaii as it's getting close to making landfall. Looks like it's centered over Maui, but like yesterday, it's becoming very unorganized. It could still bring a lot of rain. It's a tropical storm, so it's going to have a lot of moisture. And they are expecting, in some cases, up to 12 inches of rain, I think, 10 inches of rain. Possible power outages, so it's not anything to just completely dismiss entirely because it doesn't have a center of rotation, doesn't have an eye wall and all that. It's still carrying a lot of moisture. And it's kind of an anomaly, so those you really want to pay attention to. It's just another one of those. That's the second one in a month that's impacted Hawaii. And they hardly ever see tropical storms out there. But it's the new weather. It's the new thing. Here's a look at the super typhoon. It's now in the Philippine Sea. Should not affect the Philippines directly. Maybe indirectly. It's expected to go between the Philippines and Taiwan, making a landfall in about 4 days, 4.5 days, somewhere near Hong Kong. But that could change. But that is a well-defined eye wall. I think it's got wind speeds now of over 155 miles an hour. Absolutely no wind shear in that storm's environment. None. And when those storms get fired up like that, I mean, you can totally tell. That's like a version of Irma. Irma had no wind shear most of the journey. And it showed because you could see Irma's eye wall like that most of the way. It was unbelievable. And that's what this one's looking like also. No wind shear at all, affecting its performance. Very little, if any. And I don't think, we're going to take a look, I don't think it has any wind shear. Let's look and see. Let's go in close. And we'll check the wind shear. None at the moment. That's why that eye wall looks like a textbook typhoon. That's a Cat 5 with wind speeds of over 160 miles an hour right now. But it's going to encounter a little bit of low wind shear, not much. That will remain a Category 5 storm for a good part of its journey towards East Asia. Let's look and see exactly where they've got it going. And here we go. Hardly any wind shear. Look at that. All green. See the green lines? That's no wind shear. Anytime there's red, and we'll look at Florence with regard to that too. This one's got all green, clear up to the Hong Kong area. So just barely missing the Philippines and barely missing Taiwan. So slight change in its track too, which is a good thing, impacting land as a Category 2 storm. Here's Florence. Let's take a look at Florence real quick. And I'll show you the wind shear with Florence. All right, here we go. Because I think Florence just exited some small wind shear. Or at least it wasn't as strong as you see in some cases. This is Florence on its final leg towards the eastern seaboard. And it's still a very high maintenance storm. In fact, this is still showing wind speeds. Well, it's Cat 3, but there's no wind shear. Watch. It's just exiting wind shear. So it's entering an environment right now. As I do this video, the environment that it is entering and will be in for the next 24 hours is very conducive for strengthening. And then just before landfall, as you can see right here, see the red lines? Even though it's low, it's not that strong. It is a little bit of wind shear, not much. So it will encounter a little bit of wind shear about 100 miles offshore, basically of Wilmington. And it's due to make right now, of course the models could change, but it's due to make a landfall near Wilmington and then go in reverse back out to sea and then head down towards possibly a South Carolina, Georgia second landfall. We'll take a look at that here in just a minute, but I wanted to show you the wind shear environment that it was in. It wasn't that much. It was only 25 and 30, but it is now exiting all wind shear altogether. There is none. So that's why I said in a previous video, this thing does have the capability, and it will be in an environment that it can rapidly intensify once again. So being a strong Cat 3, it could go back up to a strong Category 4 or a low-end Category 5, at least temporarily until it runs into the wind shear once again. And wind shear and hurricanes just don't mix. But it's entering an area of no wind shear whatsoever, so it could rapidly intensify before it makes landfall, becoming even bigger. So we'll have to wait and see. No guarantees. These things are tricky, especially this one, when it's throwing a potential dual landfall at us. Unbelievable. Let's take a look real quick at what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico. This is just an area that they're watching. They don't know for sure, if anything, what this is going to do. It's not a tropical storm yet. It's not a tropical depression, certainly not a hurricane. It's just looks like a collection of thunderstorms right now, but it is making progress towards the Texas coast. And it's already raining there from what I understand, and it could bring more rain back to the area. Let's take a look and see. There it is right there. I don't even know what to call that. There's something they're watching. It's a tropical wave. And anytime a tropical wave enters the Gulf of Mexico in those very warm waters, and it's starting to get some rotation. So yeah, I guess it could be. If that's a named storm, which it doesn't look like to me it's going to be, it just depends on the forward speed, that would be Joyce. If it were to become organized and make landfall as a hurricane, which I kind of doubt it, but you never know. Harvey came from down in this area. I'm not saying that this is going to be a Harvey. I'm just saying it does have the potential to, in fact, it's got a 70% chance of formation. I'm not sure what they're looking at here. It looks like a big mess to me, but they're looking at the possibility of something forming right there where you see that I. So not an I wall, the letter I. That's called Invest. I think this is Invest 95L or something like that. So anyway, possibility of rain coming up into the Gulf of Mexico near Houston, possibly Corpus Christi, maybe Brownsville. It's still unknown at this point. Something to keep an eye on, though. And if that does form, that would be Joyce. And then the next storm, let's see, H-I-J-K. I'm not sure what the K is. There is a Michael this year. So hopefully Michael will be a nice storm, I'm hoping. There will be a Hurricane Michael this year. After Michael, there's Nadine. Something is telling me Nadine could be one to watch. But we'll have to wait and see. That's the list of names this year. In fact, I have it somewhere on my desktop. I'll see if I can find it later. But yeah, Michael will be a storm this year. And then Nadine. Let's go back to these crazy storm models. Unbelievable. Dual landfalls, possibly impacting North Carolina and Georgia. Let's look at one model. You ready? Here we go. We're going to look at windy.com. This is the European model, and they were showing this yesterday, and I didn't mention it yesterday because I thought, maybe the currents and things like that may change, talking about the atmospheric conditions and currents, but they're staying the same today. They were showing this yesterday as this thing going down the coast and entering the state of Georgia, which Georgia has implemented a state of emergency today. And here's why. This is Hurricane Florence out in the Atlantic, its current position right now as I do this video. Let's step it forward in time. This is later on tonight, and you can see they're going to start feeling the outer edges of this storm tonight into tomorrow morning. Looking at a possible landfall near Wilmington tomorrow evening, maybe overnight tomorrow night or Friday early, and then backing up, going down the coast, re-strengthening, taking the scenic route along the coastline, and then re-entering somewhere in the area of southern South Carolina, right around the Savannah, Georgia area, with the eye wall going into central Georgia as a tropical storm, more than likely, even a depression. But you're looking at Monday now, and it's going back up over North Carolina. So North Carolina will be in this storm for days, North and South Carolina, for days. Never seen anything like this. Honestly, never seen a storm like this. Seen a lot of hurricanes, but never seen one like this. If it goes through with this potential path, taking a cruise right down the coastline from north to south, and then entering again. And these wind speeds right here, this bright yellow, you're looking at 136 mile per hour sustained winds. And that's tomorrow morning in less than 24 hours just offshore. And that's going to start instigating that storm surge up in the Outer Banks area, in those sounds. Those canals, those waterways could, if it stays on this track, and it looks like it's going to because we're so close. I mean, this thing is huge. It's got a huge wind field. The storm surge in some of those areas could be greater than 9 feet. And I was looking around in there yesterday. There's a lot of homes in there. So I hope everyone has evacuated out of that area based off of this forecast. Everyone should be out of those areas right there. 9 foot plus storm surge along the Wilmington area in North Carolina. They're expecting in places 13 feet or greater storm surge. So this could go down as a record-setting event, setting multiple records. Here's the system down in the Gulf of Mexico while we're here. And you can see, I think it's just going to remain a tropical wave. I mean, it could still deliver a lot of rain. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think it's going to have all the mechanics needed to become a tropical storm. But don't underestimate its rainfall potential. That could bring a lot of rain to the Texas coast by this weekend. So no doubt about that. But this is kind of a weird new track, and it's even confirmed by the National Hurricane Center. They've got this thing turning, impacting Wilmington, then backing up and going down the coast. The red shows storm or hurricane warnings. They're confident it's going to go that direction, but you can see they've changed the cone now, and it's tilted way to the south. including most of the state of Georgia now, all of South Carolina, and then back up into even parts of West Virginia and Kentucky. It's going to stick around for over 5 days in this area as some sort of a storm. Not a hurricane the entire time, but a tropical storm, depression, 5 days out. Unbelievable amount of rain in this area. And the rivers, the levees, the dams will have more than enough water than they can handle at this particular moment if things stay the way that they are. You're talking rainfall totals over 35 inches in places, maybe over 40. This is what the storm surge looks like. An area, I'll show you on Google Earth, the areas in red are areas greater than 9 feet above normally dry ground. Orange is greater than 6 feet above normally dry ground. So that is some major storm surge. And the thing of it is, you can't escape storm surge. You can escape wind. You can hide and protect yourself from wind, even rain, even a flash flood. You can more than likely, keep yourself in a safe spot during a flash flood. But 6, 8 foot, 9 foot storm surge, there's just no escaping that, guys. That's above the first floor of your home. That's getting into the second floor of your home almost. So you need to pay very close attention to these storm surge models, and I'll keep you updated the best I can. But the storm surge is the biggest issue when it comes to yourself and your safety. You can't escape storm surge. That was the big problem with Katrina. It came ashore as a Cat 3, but the storm surge, of course, you're talking New Orleans, which New Orleans sits literally below sea level. That didn't help matters at all. But you're talking 9 foot storm surge. Let me go back to Google Earth and show you this area here. There's one area that I was looking at very closely yesterday, and it was called, or is called, New Bern. And it's in this Hatteras area. Let me show you real quick. Okay, here's that same area on Google Earth that is forecasted. There it is right there. That's forecasted to see storm surge 9 feet or greater above normally dry ground. Do you know anybody in that area? New Bern? Actually, across that canal, there's a community called Washington. I noticed there's many homes in those areas. And from what I'm understanding, if I'm reading those maps correctly, which I've read a few maps in my time, I'm just saying that it's not rocket science. That red means storm surge potential of over 9 feet. That goes to the ceiling of your home. Typical one-story home, if you in a building anyway, one story generally equals 10 foot. Okay, so it would be at the ceiling of your house, above the ceiling of your house. Most home ceilings are around the 7 foot, 8 foot mark. So this would be well above your head. But this is one of the areas right here that's in red, New Bern. I'm going to go into street level. According to this forecast from the National Hurricane Center, This area right here could be under 9 feet of water in less than 48 hours. See that house right there, that white home? Turning right now. You'll be able to see it here in just a second. There we go. The water is forecasted to be above those first set of windows on that 2-story home. The second story would be okay according to the forecasted model, around 9 feet. And it says even greater than 9 feet. 9 foot is the average. Could be greater. But if you were in the second story of that home, you would be okay. If you were in the first story of that home, you would not be okay. Storm surge would be up to the top of the windows on the first floor of that home right there. So that's nothing to mess with, that storm surge. We saw that with Katrina, and that was an awful situation. People on their roofs of their homes, apartment buildings, and it was just not a good situation. So if you can avoid that type of situation, by all means do. You still have time. Hopefully there's nobody in here. But I understand, it's a tough call. But this here, when you see numbers like that, 9 foot or greater, and it's not worth the risk, guys. All of this area here could see 9 foot or greater storm surge, unfortunately. And it's not just this area. Over here. This community here is also in the red zone. Let's take a look and see. Are these single-story or 2-story homes? Looks like they're single. 1-story homes. Go back in again. I'm just across the waterway. Yeah, that house right there that you see, whenever it catches up here in just a second. There we go. The house on the left would be underwater, all the way up to the roof. House on the right, again, like the first house we saw, the first floor, the first set of windows would be underwater. That small house would be completely underwater. These homes here, again, you would be okay on the second story, but not on the first level. So hopefully there's nobody in these areas here. And these are the storm surge areas with 9 feet or greater amounts of water above dry ground. This road, these buildings here, that entire building, the water would be up to the roof line. And very well could be. That's the forecast right now. Based off of the forecast right now, that building will be completely underwater. And could potentially be for quite some time. No electricity. So that area right there, guys, right now is showing a lot of storm surge. The highest storm surge is closer to the between Wilmington and Morehead City. Could see storm surge in places of 13 feet or greater. Unbelievable situation unfolding here from this storm. And like I was showing you earlier, this storm does have the potential to gain strength again. It's in an environment right now that is absolutely, it's better than the environment that the super typhoon's in over in the Philippine Sea. Let's put it that way. This environment that it's entering, there's no wind shear of any kind. None. So it could rapidly intensify. I'm just saying, that's just a big heads up based off of what I'm seeing. Big heads up. I'll show it to you one more time here before we move on. Oh, I want to show you another model here real quick. Hang on. That's the storm surge in the sound, in those canals. Based off of its position right now, they're going to fill up with water. And once it starts, probably will fill up pretty quickly. So hopefully there's no one in there. But I know it's hard. I wrote out Hurricane Charlie, but we weren't, anybody in the Orlando area wasn't expecting Hurricane Charlie. So it wasn't like, okay, we had 3 days to, move inland. Next thing we know, a few hours later, we're staring down the pipe at a Cat 4 hurricane. Unbelievable. And like I said, it took off roofs. No problem. And it was a small hurricane. Wasn't that big. This thing here is huge. I mean, it's absolutely massive. Yeah, this thing's predicted to strengthen again. You can see right here. That's where it's at right now with wind speeds of 125. I want to show you the environment that it's going back into. And very quickly, back up to 140. And that's this evening at 5 p.m. And then up to 145 tonight. This storm is going to strengthen again, guys. No doubt about it. 140 right before landfall. And then as it slows down and almost parks next to Wilmington, it'll have wind speeds of around 120 mile an hour sustained. Let me show you another model real quick while we are here. This is a look at the visible imagery of Hurricane Florence. This is from earlier. Actually, no, this is the most recent. It's having a hard time keeping up. There's so many people. Well, we're going to skip that one. Let's go to Vicious Sky. Okay, here we go. It's going to show the same pretty much thing. They're both in agreement, almost identically. Both of these models, so more than likely, right now at least, this thing is going to make 2 impacts. A dual impact category, probably impact as a category 3, but it will re-strengthen to a Cat 4. Make landfall right there. And the right side of that storm, those high winds will be up in the Hatteras area, the Outer Banks, creating storm surge. Thursday night into Friday, all day Friday, as this thing just sits there, piling up water in the sounds, in those canals. Look at it, just sitting there for 24 hours, hardly moving. I mean, seriously, that's nuts. Sitting in the same place now for over 24 hours, barely moving. You don't want to be there. Are you serious? Look at that. Now it's putting it in reverse, and it's Saturday. Still sitting there. Now it's deciding to move down the coast. But you're talking into Sunday. So this model shows it sitting next to North Carolina and South Carolina for a little longer duration. The European model shows it going down the south, down the coast towards the south, making a landfall near Savannah. So the models are pretty close in agreement. This thing, both of them are showing it stalling pretty much right along the coast after it makes a impact of sorts, then backing up and regaining strength. It's just highly unusual. Here's another example of pretty much the same model. I'll show you what this one is showing. This is over at Tropical Tidbits. Guys, I would show you, watch this one. See, it goes up there in Parks, sits there. That's Saturday, Sunday, before it decides to really move. Goes up, back out to sea. Wait a minute, there's something new on here, guys. Hold on. Okay, I just updated this an hour ago. I'm seeing something new on here, so you guys are getting this firsthand. This is showing, and this is normally an accurate platform. This is showing some sort of a storm coming up the Gulf of Mexico, and this is not that tropical wave that's going towards Texas. This is something different. This is a model that goes 10 days out, and a lot can change in 10 days. But check this out. September 20th, there's something down here forming north of Cuba. See that? I just noticed that. That just came on the platform within the last hour. So we might have a storm coming up the Gulf of Mexico in the next 10 days. I'm going to let it play through again. In fact, we'll step it through one frame at a time. Or I'll just let it play, and then I'll stop it where we need to stop it. Actually, we'll step it through. Look, Southwest Florida, that's Thursday the 20th. Granted, that's a few days out, but this wasn't on there earlier this morning. I looked. That's a hurricane. That's a small hurricane, but that's a hurricane. The low pressure's got it at least a Category 1. Making landfall in the Florida Panhandle on September 23rd. That's a long ways out. This one goes up to 10 days, so a lot can change between now and then. So just know that there is the possibility of a storm forming. There's also one over in the Pacific. See it? You're getting this information brand spanking new. This has just come on this model. That storm over in the East Pacific making its way into the Baja. See that? Watch. That's also a new update. And that's at a Cat 2, possibly a Category 3. And that could bring rain to Arizona. We'll take it. Oh yeah, the lows goes right over Tucson. But again, that's on Monday, September 24th, so a lot could change. But that's got a central low pressure of 952 millibars. I'm talking about the one over in the East Pacific off the California Baja, Mexico Baja. Or Mexico. That's 948 millibars, so that's a Cat, Florence right now is 946 millibars, and it's a Cat 3. So that could be a Cat 3, a very strong Category 2, more than likely a Category 3 over in the Pacific. The one in the Gulf, that's a small storm, kind of reminds me of Gordon a little bit. But that's, again, 10 days out, 9 days out. That's a long ways. But the forecast has just been updated, and this is normally pretty accurate. And you want to know, let you guys in on something. This is one of the models that was one of the first ones to mention Hurricane Harvey last year. It sure was, because I watch a lot of them, and this was one of the ones that mentioned Harvey first. So it's an excellent source of information, and it's one that I use all the time. Those two there are brand new. They've been updated within the last hour. Possible storm in the Gulf of Mexico less than 10 days from now. And a storm in the East Pacific headed towards the U.S. mainland less than 10 days from now as a Category 3. A lot can change, though, between now and then. But it does show, like the other models, this Florence coming up and stalling near South Carolina and North Carolina, sitting there dropping just unbelievable amounts of rain. And it's already starting to affect the outer banks. The very first outer bands of this huge storm are already reaching the far east coast of North Carolina. And it's 500 miles away. The eye wall is. The front right quadrant is the strongest part of most hurricanes, well, all hurricanes. But the center of the rotation is 500 miles from land. But the outer arms of this, the structure of this thing is just huge, and it's getting bigger. And it's going to strengthen, guys, this afternoon and this evening. This storm will be a Category 4 storm by this evening. It's entering waters that are just way too favorable for the formation of hurricanes. I don't know how it could not, based off of what we're seeing. Incredible. And there's a lot of activity all across the equator, all the way around the earth. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 systems right now of some strength that are being watched right now. 10. So you talk about the peak of hurricane season. Wow. But right now, even though it's not the biggest storm on the planet, the biggest storm on the planet's over in the Philippine Sea. And that's a super typhoon. Believe it or not, as big as this storm is right here, Florence, it's the second largest storm on Earth right now. But it could have devastating impacts on North Carolina, South Carolina. Georgia has now been added to the list if this storm does turn south and take the scenic route down the coastline, which it does look like it's going to. That's what the models are showing. So kind of expect that, guys. But it is going to slow down and sit right offshore of North Carolina, possibly making an impact into North Carolina as a major hurricane in less than 36 hours. Let's just take a look here at the National Hurricane Center and get the exact forecast while we are here. It's not wanting to update. So that's unusual. Well, that's showing Friday morning eye wall impact, or just within, 10 miles of the shore. Starting to feel the impacts of this thing Thursday, easy, because it's so big. I mean, this thing is huge. You'll be feeling the effects of this storm tomorrow. Well inland, a lot of rain, a lot of wind. This thing is just way too big not to be. I mean, that is one huge storm. And not only that, it's going to get bigger this afternoon as it enters these warmer waters that have absolutely nothing to interfere with the storm's performance. Not a thing. In fact, it's got everything to enhance its strength. Here it is right here. We're going to take a look at it one more time. This is Hurricane Florence. Watch this. But it does look like there's a lot of rain headed towards the Houston area. Don't think it's going to be any type of tropical storm or anything like that. But here's a look at Florence as it's making its final approach towards the eastern seaboard. And you can see the outer banks are already reaching North Carolina as I do this video, in the form of probably rain showers, maybe getting a little windy. The seas might be picking up, which in the next video we do about these hurricanes, we're going to start looking at webcams along the coast. I've got several webcams lined up. They were working earlier. We'll see if they work later on this evening. But we're going to look at them this evening before sunset. And then we'll be watching these webcams very close tomorrow along Wrightsville Beach, right down from Surf City, all along that area, in the Wilmington area where this is supposed to make a landfall. So we will be looking at webcams tomorrow. Let's look at the wind shear one more time, and I'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. It just left Okay, it just left wind shear. Now, for the next 24, 30 hours, it's got 30 hours of an absolute perfect environment for hurricanes to form. So in the next 30 hours, it will gain strength. How strong it will get, I don't really know. I know it'll get at least back up to a Category 4. If it gets to Cat 5, hopefully it doesn't stay there. But I'm just saying, the environment that this storm is entering right now, as of 12:30 Mountain Time, 3:30 Eastern Time, the waters and the atmosphere are absolutely perfect for the formation of hurricanes. So this thing could get even bigger, and it is one huge storm right now. It's got a structure. It reminds me of Hurricane Francis, but much stronger. Hurricane Francis was a huge storm back in 2004. First was Hurricane Charlie. That went right over Orlando. And then here came Hurricane Francis, and it sat off the coast and spun. I think it was moving at a forward speed of 2 miles per hour for 2 days off the southeast coast of Florida. And then it slowly went across the midsection of Florida over Orlando. Didn't do much damage, though, because we were still trying to recover from Charlie. But it was a huge storm like this. It was just a massive, massive hurricane. But not very strong. Maybe a Cat 2, I think, Cat 1. This here is entirely different. This is a much bigger storm that's about to get even bigger, and it's about to get stronger because the environment, once again, that it's entering is very favorable for hurricanes. So hopefully you guys are out of the way of the storm surge areas. I'll put a link in the description box below so you can see exactly where the storm surge areas are. If you don't know already, I'm sure most of you in the area do, but we're just checking to make sure. A lot of storm surge coming. Thank you, Brenda. Appreciate that. That's very kind, Brenda. But a lot of storm surge coming, guys. Stay out of the way of the storm surge. I know you can ride out wind. I've done that myself. I've been in the category. It was a Cat 2 by the time it got to Orlando. It made landfall as a Category 4. It maintained its strength 150 miles inland as a Cat 2 and tore Orlando up. You know all those screened pool enclosures that are over pretty much every pool in the Orlando, Kissimmee, Windermere area? I think, what is it, Turkey Lake? I don't remember. It's been a while since I've been down there. But all the pools down there have these big screened enclosures because of the mosquitoes and gators. Keeps out mosquitoes and gators. Well, about every community that you drove, all of those were torn off the houses. Telephone or power line poles, big trees down. We weren't expecting that at all. So this can easily do what Charlie did and more. It's going to have storm surge because it's right along the coast. We rode out the winds, and I saw transformers erupting during Hurricane Charlie, and that was as a Category 2, 150 miles inland. I wasn't near the water. This has got a very serious component with it. That's storm surge. That's the worst part of a hurricane. Yeah, high winds can be bad. Flash flooding can be bad, but it's exactly that. Flash flooding. It comes and goes in a hurry. This storm surge and what this is about to do or has the potential to do is a totally different ballgame. It's not even in the same universe as what I went through. But anyway, guys, big heads up on this storm. It will strengthen this afternoon based off of what this computer model is showing. It's entering very favorable conditions for strengthening. I wouldn't be surprised, and I said it yesterday and I'm saying it again today, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing didn't reach Cat 5 by this time tomorrow. It will be a little closer to land, and it will still be in an environment that's very favorable for the formation and maintenance of high-end hurricanes. So we'll see. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully it'll stay a Cat 3, but I doubt it. It'll more than likely be a Cat 4, then a Cat 3 sitting off the coast of North Carolina for the better part of 24 to 36 hours. Getting closer, guys. hopefully everybody is evacuated that's supposed to. I'll keep you updated. We'll do another update this evening if this thing changes radically, but right now expect it to sit off the coast of North Carolina, impact North Carolina, then go in reverse, sit and spin, and go very slowly down the coast from North Carolina through South Carolina, possibly entering South Carolina or entering the area of Savannah, Georgia. We'll have to wait and see. That track will more than likely change, and we'll keep you updated as time moves forward. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a super day, and as always, be safe out there.